Hey, everybody, it's Doug Green, and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News. And I'm with the fabulous Ravel Todd, who's the CMO of CallCabinet. Ravel, thank you for joining me today.
I'm very happy to be here.
So, we're continuing our ongoing conversation about CallCabinet and about the multi platform environment. And today we're going to be talking about how to retain insights and how to retain compliance across a multi platform environment. But before we dive into that, what is CallCabinet?
CallCabinet is a call recording from a compliance perspective analytics company. And we have been around for the better part of 12 years, refining the way we need to remain compliance as this whole world, back to what you first said in the introduction, as our UC platforms continue to evolve, how people communicate continues to evolve. The core of what we do is to capture all this data coming through all the different ways we communicate over all the different devices in which people do the communication and across all those different platforms, so that all this data remains safely secure and compliant, but now becomes this rich pool of insight. And how do we take that pool and turn it into meaningful information for all the different kinds of people that are looking for it?
You know, in the run up to our podcast, I typed keeping compliant, and you said, no, it's much more than that.
It
Right?
is. It is.
Yeah.
I think, compliance is at the heart of what we do and is a huge piece of the businesses we solve for. But what has come from this with AI and the evolving technologies is, how do I go get more information from all these different levels of metadata, and how do I turn that into insights for my business, not just around customer experience, which of course is critical, but how do I look at employee experience? How do I look at how I optimize processes, or how do I optimize team happiness from a culture perspective? How do I identify when things are going south in that area so that I can jump in more proactively to save somebody from potentially leaving the business who is critical to the business? So there are so many different aspects beyond compliance where this data becomes incredibly valuable to teams that never thought about recorded conversations as a way to go get that information.
So, again, I'll bring it back to what we just experienced. We started on one platform, but you were on another platform, and then we moved to a third platform. Very common in the type of way that we experience communications today. So, first of all, CallCabinet is able to keep up with that. You're able to actually do the call recording across these different platforms.
So we are platform agnostic, which equals it does not matter what calling, conferencing, contact center platform you use. We can compliantly, securely record those calls, but now we can also deliver the analytic from those conversations across to the business so that it is most effective to move that business forward.
And so now we're diving into much more than, it's compliance. I shouldn't say much more. Compliance is huge, very important.
Yep.
It's the first building block. But now we're starting to talk about also things like CX and EX.
That's right. Yeah, I think, the conversations when you and I last met, we were talking about the departmental use. And I think that was not something, when people are talking about conversation recording, they're not thinking about it for internal capture of discussions. They're thinking of it from a calling and contact center perspective, which of course is vital. It is more about what can I learn for how my employees are operating cross team, inter team, so that I can make sure my business is operationalized to its highest degree and working well and tuned as it needs to be tuned, where training needs to occur, where management discussions need to occur, where it can be more effective in the way people communicate. It's breaking down. And so the improved CX, in fact, you might pull up that infographic that I shared with you. I think the cross-platform piece becomes really clear when you think about how all these different departments are having conversations, just like what you described when we first came on, talking over go to, and then we've moved to this platform, and the conversation needed to continue to be recorded so
Right.
that we had all the information. And so having you don't think of yourself as a cross-platform maybe business until you realize it's not really who your people are calling, it's who's calling them, who set up the meeting and what platform they use. Now all of a sudden we still need to record that information from your business's perspective. And so this cross-platform agnostic discussion becomes very prevalent when you look across these various departments. And then you think about, well, so if I recorded all these employees within these departments, what am I looking for? And how does CallCabinet give me that information? I'm marketing. Why do I care? Well, you care from a employee experience perspective. How happy are those teams? How effective is the management of those teams? But maybe they want to go get information that still in a compliant way can be accessed around what's happening in the support calls. What are people asking for about your products that all of a sudden you realize is an incredible roadmap item? Or what things aren't working so well? So maybe I need to be more wary of a campaign I'm about to craft that is highlighting something that looks like it could be something that needs to be improved upon. So that's just that piece. But that also speaks to engineering and what they can glean from these conversations. HR, in the marketing discussions, we're hearing there's a lot of unhappiness. And we need to maybe talk to HR about engaging an individual or a team to solve something that could become a bigger problem. And so these are all ways that these discussions can fuel improvement in business operations, retention of employees, as well as ultimately the happiness of the engagement of the customers that are being dealt with, because you've got healthier environment that they're engaging with.
What's interesting about all the illustrations that you guys are presenting here is that they're not top down. They're really kind of horizontal. You're
Mm-hmm.
making people aware of what's happening with other people inside the organization, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's different types of analysis that is done on this data, purely, I'll say customized, but can be pulled through based upon your requirements. So I might be looking for sentiment, happier people in these calls that are taking place, so I can key into the unhappy people. Or look for best practices and key in on the really happy people that are having these calls, so I can do more of that and less of the other. But you also are going to be looking for all sorts of quality assurance metrics. There are points in time, we were talking about this earlier, where you've got automated quality assurance, which is a blessing to so many businesses because now all calls can be QA'd. But you might come to a point where you say, man, that is a very unusual grade for that or scorecard for that agent, because they really operate better than that. So you now, as a human, can go in and listen to that call, get a summary of that call, look for keywords that you want to identify within that call to see, was that automated score accurate? And so this just allows you the ability, with the insights that we provide, to parachute in and out of any parts of these conversations based on all the different ways you can bring that intelligence forward for the different groups that are looking for insights.
Now, help me connect the dots. We've actually been talking about better employee experience, but you're also telling me this leads to better CX, better customer experience.
Absolutely. Probably without having to say so, if Ravel is really unhappy, probably the conversation she's going to have with Doug, it's going to be a frustrating, probably seeded with unhappiness conversation. But if Ravel is happy and in a good place in her job and her day, then the outcome of the conversation that she has with Doug is probably going to become more positive. And so you do look for the health, well-being, and happiness of your employees, because the engagement they have with each other and outside of the organization tend to be more positive as a result.
Also before we move on, I think so many people have been interpreting the advent of AI, the presence of AI
Mm,
in call recording and other things in the contact center and outside of the contact center as being kind of spying. In other words, a a step down for employees where as opposed to actually what you're saying is I am now becoming aware of the struggles you're having. I'm becoming aware of the things maybe I didn't know, that I can
yeah,
help you with the training. I can help you with process. I can help,
100%.
this, that.
But when you're talking about recruitment, if you are trying to find for a certain position what a best practice looks like, what's been working the best way, what are the best characteristics of the kind of person you're looking for, the type of insights you can pull out from these conversations highlight what great looks like so that now your recruitment efforts come much more spot on. You know exactly what skill set you're looking for and what type of human would succeed most effectively within your business based on the culture, based on their behavior, based on things they know how to do. And so I think um, these are key to the customer experience piece of the conversation because it's what you're met with, which executes a better outcome through the customer side of this lens.
Now, there's also some technical issues at Watch here in terms of quality call assurance.
Mm. Yeah, so I think when you use AI for QA, I might have 700 calls that need to be scored within these scorecards. And so it can have you actually require less human work as a result. But it allows me as a manager of a contact center to look at all my agents' performance at a glance, already scored, so I mentioned before, I can now dive in to areas that look maybe erroneous, or if the agent said, no, that was not a negative comment, because the way AI has potentially, as a one off, interpreted the conversation, it heard a word that in itself is a negative word, but it was used in a positive way. And so you're able to go in there and uncover that and rescore that discussion and move forward with the right interpretation. So this is it's a great thing that we have the tools we have today to increase the efficiencies, but allow human intervention very seamlessly, and then carry on.
And what you're describing is indeed what I just put up here, the AI driven conversation analytics. That's literally what this is.
That's right, and it's to the point now. I mean, we found that there were you may have some call recording licenses that are not as fully bolstered with the different features that sit on the analytic side of the licenses. But now we have call transcription, we call it selective call transcription, selective summarization, and sentiment analysis on every single license we've got. And so now, as a person within any of these departments that we talked about, are able to go in and actually allow people to pick a call that they have access to. Again, all table stakes compliance. If Ravel has access to that call, I can now tell it to transcribe it, tell it to summarize it, and I can even see the sentiment analysis of that discussion. And so now when I'm talking later on to other people within the department, I can share a summary of that call, I can share the transcript of that call, and it doesn't matter what license you've got. It allows you to do that. So we're expanding and passing across our capabilities, our licenses, the ability to engage with your data more deeply, because we realize how much it benefits businesses to be able to do that. And instead of keeping it at the analytics level licenses, now all call recording.
So when you put this all together, can you also, is it bespoke? is, in other words, can you actually customize it for the business that you're in? Because there's such a diversity of different enterprises and things that they're trying to do.
Yeah, 100%. And so that's the beauty of the platform we deliver, is that you are able to put the requirements you have around the measurements, the reporting, the analysis to get what you need in these dashboards back. And all the way to something more granular like uploading a vocabulary that you need so that you can tag calls with various words that are important just for your industry, medical, all the types of vocabulary used in medicine. It's important that those are recognized. So if you're trying to pull forward calls where that discussion occurred, you can, and it's a medical term. And so all of this allows you from a vertical perspective, the ability to make it unique to your engagement with the analytics and with the conversations that have been captured.
So, Ravel, is this also an opportunity for the channel?
Massive opportunity for the channel. So if there is anything I know this, that when a partner has to go into a customer and they have to offer a multitude of solutions to meet a very complex situation, the opportunity becomes a very long, drawn out deal closure. And so the power of one, meaning leading with a solution like CallCabinet that checks all the boxes, means that you will close the deals faster. You'll have a happier customer in situations where they expected a more complex solution to meet their needs. And this is all about efficiency, making sure that you check all the boxes, and also not losing your footprint to a competitor that comes in who has CallCabinet solution they're providing. And so this has really been this agnostic approach means that the partners have the ability to go in, take CallCabinet forward, and not have to have the partner don't have additional capabilities that you are bolting on in order to complete that deal.
So it prevents poaching, and it's relatively simple to sell. And actually, it sounds like it's really simple to implement. It works. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, this is a huge win for customer retention in a very competitive world where there are multiple partners going after the same deals. And so you want to make sure you've got a solid solution that is not complicated. We've got a single user interface, everything we do across all platforms globally. And that single point of engagement within the platform is incredibly unique and effective.
And it sounds like the creative MSPs and channel partners will be able to find this tool across many verticals. That this sounds like it's way beyond. It's CallCabinet is for call centers, cabinet for contact centers, but it's for many companies that may not technically have a contact center.
That's right. Truly, it is. It is where you're trying to grow your business with insights you haven't been able to get your arms around before. Thinking differently about where you get those insights, and then how you take them and analyze what you've got to improve your operations internally, as well as your engagements and insights that will lead to more profitability with the customers you deal with.
Ravel, this has been really interesting. As always, I'm enjoying doing this podcast series with you. Where can we learn more about CallCabinet?
Yeah, absolutely. CallCabinet.com. Please go visit. And if you're a partner, we have a wonderful partner portal, and we'd love for you to register in it, go in and take a look at all the different materials we have that will make this conversation much more beneficial for your customers that you're talking to.
Always a pleasure. Thank you indeed for joining me today. I'm looking forward to our next one.
Absolutely. Take care.